They pressed a Glock to her face and asked a question meant to end everything. Any last words? In that frozen second, she did not beg. She did not flinch. She looked past the barrel and measured the men holding it, already calculating what they had forgotten to fear. Asterisk, what city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more real stories about extraordinary people. Her name was Mara Cole, and the night she was taken, no one knew who she really was. Not the men who grabbed her outside a coastal warehouse. Not the driver who slammed the van door. Not the leader who smiled as if he owned the outcome. To them, she was just another woman in the wrong place. Someone small enough to disappear without consequences. They believed power lived in the weight of steel and the certainty of numbers. They believed wrong. Mara had learned early that silence could be armor. She grew up near water, where storms arrived without warning and left lessons behind. Her father taught her discipline, her mother taught her patience, and the ocean taught her respect for forces that look calm until they are not. By the time she was old enough to choose her path, she chose the hardest one. Training stripped away comfort and replaced it with clarity. Fear became a signal. Pain became information. Identity became something you could carry quietly, like a blade hidden under cloth. That night, she had been tracking a leak that put lives at risk. It was supposed to be clean and quick. Confirm, report, move. Instead, the net snapped shut. The men moved with confidence born from success. They spoke loudly. They laughed. They told each other stories about how easy it would be to make her talk. Mara listened and learned, counting steps, turns, voices. She kept her breathing steady and her eyes dull. People underestimate what they think they already understand. In a room that smelled of oil and salt, they tied her to a chair. The leader circled her like a bored cat. He asked her name. She gave it. He asked who she worked for. She said the truth without the parts that mattered. That was the trick. Truth without context is camouflage. He slapped the table, angry that she did not sound afraid. Another man scoffed and said she was bluffing. They argued about her worth. Time passed. She waited. When threats did not work, they escalated. They wanted a reaction, something to confirm their control. The leader drew the Glock and pressed it close enough that the cold touched her skin. Any last words, he said, enjoying the theater of it. This was the moment they expected surrender. It was the moment they expected to own her fear. Mara met his eyes and spoke evenly. You should put that down. He laughed. Another man laughed with him. They mistook calm for weakness. They mistook restraint for defeat. The leader asked why. She told him that pointing a gun does not make you safe. It makes you predictable. The laughter faded. He leaned closer, offended now, determined to prove something to himself. Inside, Mara ran the map she had built. The leader stood too close. The second man favored his right leg. The third watched the door and trusted the others to do the hard work. The Glock was real, but so was momentum. Training had taught her that violence is not chaos. It is physics and timing and resolve. She waited for the breath between decisions. When the leader shifted his weight, Mara moved. The chair tipped. Her shoulder drove up, not into the barrel, but into the wrist behind it. The angle mattered. The crack echoed in the room. The gun clattered away. She rose with the chair still tangled, using it as a shield, then a weapon. The second man reached for her and found the floor instead. The third hesitated. Hesitation is a gift. She did not chase. She controlled space. She broke contact when needed and closed it when it counted. The room was smaller now, defined by fear that had changed sides. The leader scrambled, disbelief etched across his face. He had pressed a Glock to her face and expected obedience. You got consequence. Sirens cut the night later. Summoned by a signal she had sent minutes before capture, a breadcrumb only those who knew her would follow. When the door burst open, uniforms flooded in. Commands were sharp and final. The men were secured. The room went quiet. An officer approached her, concern and confusion mixing as he took in the scene. He asked if she was hurt. She shook her head. He asked who she was. She gave him a look that said, "Not here. Not yet." Outside, under a sky washed clean by wind, a figure stepped forward. He did not wear insignia that shouted authority, but the way others moved around him told the story. He looked at Mar and nodded once. They spoke privately. He addressed her by a call sign no one else in that circle had earned the right to use. His voice carried respect without ceremony. The officer nearby froze, understanding dawning. The woman they had found tied to a chair was not a victim rescued by chance. She was a Navy SEAL on assignment, one of the quiet professionals who do not advertise their strength. Paperwork followed. Statements were taken. The night closed around its loose ends. Mara washed her hands and felt the tremor arrive late, the way it always does when danger passes. She let it come and go. Strength is not the absence of fear. It is the discipline to act without letting fear decide for you. Before dawn, she stood by the water again. The ocean breathed in and out, indifferent to titles and weapons. She thought about the question that had been asked, the one meant to end her story. Any last words? The truth was simpler than they expected. Last words are for people who believe they are finished. She had never believed that. The lesson traveled farther than that room. Power that relies on threat is brittle. Control that demands fear is temporary. Respect is earned by competence and restraint, by knowing when to speak and when to move. The men learned the cost of threatening someone they did not understand. Mar returned to work, quieter than before, carrying the same blade under cloth, the same calm behind her eyes. If this story stirred something in you, hold on to it. Courage often looks like silence until the moment it matters. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.